Howdy everybody. We've got a beautiful day in mid-November, so I'm just chilling outside a little bit, doing a little fishing and making a YouTube video, I suppose. So I'll start by saying there's a big announcement coming soon, probably in a couple weeks or so. I'm not positive on that, but as long as things go well in the next couple weeks with what I'm planning, should be good to announce it then. This video here is just going to be kind of a recap or update video on how the past decade has gone and summarizing some of the stuff from my YouTube days and days as a runner and then also my coaching career over the past decade. So probably going to be pretty lengthy. So I kind of want to talk about my running YouTube days and my coaching days as separate entities, even though they did overlap a little bit. I did a pretty good job of keeping those totally separate from each other. So starting off, I want to talk about like the beginnings of my YouTube channel, the idea behind it, kind of summarizing how I feel like it went. So toward the end of my college running, I kind of knew that I wanted to make the sport into a career in some shape or form. Obviously, as with any serious collegiate runner, their tip-top dream is to be a professional runner, which, yeah, I would have loved to do that, but I was also a very realistic person and very self-aware and knew that the chances of that were astronomically low. I'm sure a lot of people thought of me as that weird kid in high school and college that was overly obsessed with something that he wasn't that entirely great at, and put all his eggs in one basket, not being prepared for anything else. But I don't know, that is kind of what I did, but it's just kind of who I am as a person as well. Just want to be all in on one thing, and I just love the sport that much. So while I was very self-aware that my chances of being a professional runner were extremely low, I kind of came up with this idea that was an original idea by me, although a few other people may have been doing it at the time, but that was to create a YouTube channel and kind of document my running journey and just see if it would pick up any steam or see if anybody enjoyed it. It was really just combining a love for making videos along with my love for running. Back in the old days, like elementary school, I'd go over to my friend's house and his family had a camcorder and we'd make our own stupid Saturday Night Live type of videos, home video stuff. It evolved into making trick shot videos, pong trick shot videos with my friends in high school, to disc golf videos, to recording guitar covers. I mean, whatever it might be, I enjoyed making videos about stuff, so it made sense to try to combine that into my running journey. So while I was an athlete in college, I never really even considered the possibility of making running videos, and I'm glad I didn't. I just think that a competitive team environment should be kept mostly private, but this was, when I started my YouTube channel, I was removed from being an athlete on the team. I was coaching a team, but like I said, I was very good at keeping my running YouTube life completely separate from my coaching life for the most part. So before I even got started with the YouTube channel, I remember sitting in applications to various kind of semi-professional teams, sub-elite teams like the Saucony Hurricanes. They were around at the time. I don't think they exist anymore, but just kind of sitting in an application and telling what I intend to do and who I am and everything, and of course, you know, justifiably that didn't gain any traction. I never heard back from anybody, but that was okay because I really wanted to do this just for a love of it first and foremost, and then see if I could get anything on top of that. So eventually I finally started my YouTube channel in my last semester at Central Missouri, which I didn't know was my last semester at the time of starting it, but yeah, I started it back then, and kind of my first video was taking everybody through a week of training of me trying to hit a really high mileage week, which was 125 miles at the time, and ended up failing and kind of being somewhat injured or injury scared at the end, going into a long run. Still got like 105 miles on the week or something like that, but that actually picked up a decent amount of traction right away. So then after that first video, there was a slight hiatus in videos, and eventually I kind of recovered up and got back into training again, and then did a little short series on me trying to officially break 15 in the 5K for the first time. So kind of showed my training plan, showed a few different key workouts during that time, and then ultimately not really a race video, but just a race recap video where I was successful in breaking 15, ran 14:57, and then that's when traction continued even more. After that track season in the spring of 2017, I ended up moving back home with my parents just for a very brief stint before moving to Pittsburgh, Kansas. During that time over the summer, I registered for the Houston Half Marathon and kind of said I'm going to be training for this. And then that next semester, I made a better series to that Breaking 15 series and and documented kind of a workout each week, and then kept building on that, and then that went really well, and even more traction. There was a ton of momentum in the channel at this time, and then seeing it all come together with a fantastic race result. I mean, the best race result I've ever had in my life as a runner was running a half marathon in 1:06:55, and that was pre-super shoot era. Very proud of that one, and I still don't know how I did it, but it was pretty cool, and a lot of people were really happy to see that, and so gained a lot of support during that time. So at that point in time of that Houston half marathon, I'd only been doing this YouTube channel for about a year, and again, I was not aware of it at the time, but that was kind of the peak of my running days and my YouTube days, in my opinion. All this time in that first year of YouTubing and a little bit beyond that, I never monetized my channel just because I wanted to keep it purely as something that I was doing for fun and that I'm passionate about, and never forced an obligation on myself to that I have to do this because I have to make a little money off of this or whatever it might be. Eventually I got talked into monetizing my channel around the same time that I released a video of me running 150 miles in a week out in Gunnison, Colorado. And in hindsight, I kind of wish I didn't monetize my channel ever. There were definitely pros and cons to it. On one end, one of the good things was making a little money off of it. If I was uploading somewhat regularly, I might make enough in a month to pay off an electric bill. So of course that was nice, especially as a guy that was working full-time for part-time pay for quite a while. So, you know, a little bit of extra cash went a long ways and helped me pay some utilities. So then on the other end of the spectrum, even though I never let the YouTube channel change who I was at the core, like I never went down the road of clickbait or anything like that and just doing everything solely for the purpose of extra money. I would say it did influence some of my decisions on how I train and what I need to do in training, and what might be a little catchy. Like a good example is when Tinman was really hot in 2019, 2020 or so. I kind of came up with a training plan that was inspired by Tinman. It was not from himself, but just what I kind of viewed as Tinman training, and was going to implement that, but I ended up getting hurt, so I didn't even get started on it basically. But it's not like I didn't think it was going to be good training for me, so it wasn't solely just to get clicks and get more views, but I would say that definitely influenced my decision on what I was doing. So anyways, after that initial very successful first year of YouTubing, it was kind of just a cycle of me making a training plan. Sometimes it went all right, sometimes it didn't go well at all, and I'd always be trying to get back to a new peak again and just never could. Never got that close to another performance like Houston. And then kind of pulling myself away from the YouTube version of myself and just me as a runner. After that Houston half marathon race, I saw it as very possible but still very challenging to qualify for the Olympic trials in the marathon, which was under 2:19 at the time. I roughly thought my 1:06:55 was equivalent to about a 2:22 or 2:23 marathon performance. So I felt like I only needed to cut off about 4 to 5 minutes of fitness to get there. Although that was a bit of a stretch because I had zero marathon experience or even really training specifically for the marathon as well. So I was kind of starting from scratch. At the time, I didn't think I was talented enough to hit that marathon qualifier without some very ambitious and some would say stupid training. So I was willing to take that risk and did take that risk, and it didn't pay off. So after trying to hit some mega mileage after my Houston half marathon, I just never felt like I was the same runner ever again, and just dealt with too many setbacks. Had to take a little fishing break there. So anyways, it was very challenging to coach myself over the long haul just because I didn't have enough discipline to restrain myself from doing too much mileage or jumping back into things too quickly. Kind of just thought I was tougher than the average person and could handle more, so I figured I could just get through it, and a lot of times it didn't work out in my favor. Overall, the YouTube channel was a very interesting and fun portion of my life, and if I could go back and do it all over again, I'm not sure if I would or not, and if I didn't, I'm not sure what the outcome would have been. Part of me thinks that this channel was a big reason why I hit such a high peak as a runner during the Houston era, because it served as a lot of extra motivation and discipline and accountability, just because I was putting myself out there in this public domain and I wanted to show that I could walk the walk in addition to talking the talk. So And then part of me also thinks that maybe this was just a big distraction over the long haul, and it kept myself from being as good of a runner as I could have been. But also without the YouTube channel, maybe I would have given up on competitive running for myself a lot sooner than I did, just because I didn't have that extra accountability or reason to keep doing it. Maybe I also would have been the silent grinder who eventually qualified for the Olympic trials in the marathon, and nobody would really know about it or care about it because I wasn't out there in this public space, but I would have been a better runner. I would have been able to maybe listen to my body more and make better decisions without the YouTube channel. I'm not sure. I can't say how it turned out, but I can say that, like I said earlier, it was very interesting and fun regardless of how it all turned out, and I'm still happy with what I did, but I always got to wonder, did I leave some potential out there? Either way, I did fight really hard for 3 to 4 years after that race to try to hold on to the dream and make something happen, and it was just really hard to eventually accept the fact that I no longer believed in myself to be able to hit a new peak, or no longer had that true desire anymore. So that kind of sums up my running career and YouTube career, and so now let's cycle back all the way to the beginnings of my coaching career. Getting into college coaching can be kind of brutal because there aren't very many openings. It's hard to get interest as a young coach. They're just very limited opportunities, and so the most guaranteed path into college coaching is just being willing to work anywhere at any level, being able to move anywhere in the country, just whatever it takes, and honestly pay your dues for a while and not work for much pay, if any at all. So after I graduated from Central Missouri in the spring of 2015, I really had no reason to leave there. I was just happy there, simply put, and even though I didn't have like a paid coaching position lined up, I was just happy to be there, and loved my coaches, loved my teammates, and honestly I saw that position, if I could just stay there forever, I saw that as my dream job. Whenever my coach retired, I'd be there ready to take over, and I didn't have any idea of when that would be though, so that's another tricky thing about college coaching, is that you got to be in the right place at the right time. So I already had a master's degree, but I had this NCAA post-grad scholarship, so I kept working on another one. I was teaching some college math courses, some low-level college math courses at the time. That was kind of fun, a little bit of extra income there, but not a ton. And then I was still training myself, and I was able to be a volunteer assistant under my coach. I won't get too much into detail on this part, but very shortly into that first season of coaching, all those plans were derailed because my coach had some serious health complications, and that kind of threw me into the fire right away, and being in charge of the program. And it was such a conflicting place for me to be because, as I just mentioned, it was literally my dream job, but it was under about the worst possible circumstances, close to it anyways. So it was just very strange for me. So I was basically in charge of the cross country and distance program at Central Missouri for a year, and then my coach returned to work, and then once again, not going too much into detail, long story short, I basically made some mistakes as an assistant coach, getting a taste of my dream job, and then like kind of being into control and then not being into control, and essentially I was not the best assistant coach I could be, and ultimately ended up deciding that it was best if I remove myself from the program and get a fresh start somewhere else. So sometime mid-semester, I kind of just knew I was leaving, but I didn't have any plans set in place for the next year, so knew that once the school year was done, I was going to move back with my parents and just look for opportunities and see what I could find. I was applying for several different positions, but I was really only getting interest from some smaller programs and graduate assistantships, which was kind of frustrating because I already had a master's degree, didn't need another one, and I thought I had gained a lot of valuable experience in my first couple years of coaching, and was ready for a full-time job, but that just was not happening. It didn't take me long to settle on a graduate assistant position at Pitt State under Coach Russ Jewett. Pitt State was a very successful program in our conference, and I was relatively familiar with them. I didn't see them as really a rival when I was at Central Missouri, although we were both very successful and competed against each other a lot. So I didn't think it was that conflicting of a move, but in hindsight, I can see how a lot of people at Central Missouri probably were not fond of that move by me going to Pitt State. Once I got to Pitt State, I felt like I was totally revitalized as a person and a runner, and had a lot of energy, and I was just on a mission to be the best assistant coach I could be, you know, just do everything to contribute to Coach Jewett's vision and mission, whether I agreed with it or not. That was my role as an assistant coach, just to be a sponge and soak everything up and learn about the tradition and the history and the culture, and just help Coach Jewett in whatever way I could. Working with Coach Jewett was absolutely great. I really got to see what it meant to devote your entire life essentially to a program for so many years, and which wasn't any different at Central Missouri either. My coaches at Central Missouri did the same thing. I mean, in fact, they'd been coaching for about the same time at Central Missouri that Coach Jewett had been coaching at Pitt State. You know, both had been coaching against each other for 30 plus years, and they did things what I felt like was, you know, the right way. They were great people and they treated their athletes right. So every year that I finished at Pitt State, I just couldn't see myself leaving the next year. Even though I wasn't making much money, I just loved what I was doing there and always saw the next year as a great opportunity for success and had great people returning, and I wanted to be a part of that. So just stayed at Pitt State and kept doing what I was doing. While I was the assistant, of course I kept training, and that's when I was doing a lot of YouTube stuff, and I was able to keep that pretty separate, but I did get to train with the guys a lot of easy running, long runs and all that, and occasional workouts with them, and got to establish some pretty special relationships with a lot of the guys that ran for Pitt State. I was perfectly content working full-time hours for part-time pay. As I mentioned earlier, that's just kind of nature of the beast with some college coaching, and I was just happy doing it. In my first year at Pitt State, our men won the indoor national championship in Division II. It didn't feel like I was a huge part of that, though, just because, I mean, it was my first year there. We didn't have any distance runners qualify. Now, maybe I did do some of the grunt work that takes some of the load off the guys that were the other coaches that were actually coaching athletes, you know, but didn't personally feel like I played any sort of significant role in that. But as time went on, it felt like I was contributing more and more to the success, whether I was the assistant or eventually taking over. Through those first few years, we won quite a few conference team championships, and our distance runners were relevant in that, so that was fun, but we just lacked a presence at the national level. Then eventually in those first 3 to 4 years, our men's track team got back to being nationally relevant, and middle distance runners were now playing a role in that too. In the winter of 2021, Coach Jewett and I were able to qualify a men's DMR for the first time in over a decade, and we were just happy to be there, to be honest, but somehow we ended up pulling off an underdog victory with 4 guys that were at the national championship for the first time in their life, and so that was very, very fun. Not too long after that indoor season, started getting some hints that Coach Jewett was leaning towards retiring after the spring of 21, and that ended up being correct, but Coach Jewett got to go out with a bang with hosting a conference championship and the men winning an exciting meet, and ultimately getting back on the podium at nationals, and our men getting 4th place. Around all those championship meets in that spring, Coach Jewett told me that he was planning to retire, and he wanted to make sure that I was willing to take over the distance program after that. It was pretty tough to process at first because there's a lot of things that I was kind of weighing at the time. Like, I didn't know if I wanted to give up my own running or not yet. And a lot of people say you didn't have to do that. But for me, doing it at a competitive level and running 80, 90, 100 miles a week and trying to be really fit, like, if you're really coaching to the fullest extent that you can, it's really challenging to manage all that training on your own. This was also a struggle for me because I wasn't sure if I was totally ready to take on that role of being in charge of the distance program yet. Like I felt like I had some unfinished business in the learning realm of things. Like, if I could have gone and volunteered even again at some place like Northern Arizona or University of Colorado, you know, find some place that's really like one of the best schools in what they're doing, and before I take over. And then one last part of it that was pretty tough for me was it was tough to see myself in that role because it didn't feel like it could be anybody's program but Coach Jewett's. Worked side by side with him daily for like 4 years straight and saw what he devoted to it. So it was just hard to see it not being his. Ultimately, I decided it was time for me to shift some of my priorities and take on this opportunity and kind of drop my running, drop my YouTubing. Around that time, I made a lot of my YouTube videos private, just to kind of move on from that persona in my life and be more of a professional figure, I suppose. But I did leave up some of my stuff from what I would call my peak era in the Houston half marathon days. So it was fun to build off the foundation that Coach Jewett had laid and and start twisting some things around and using my own ideas and starting to make it my own anyways. It still didn't feel like totally my own for a long time. But that first fall, that cross-country season, I was kind of playing around with training, and I was incorporating my ideas from my own training, from Pitt State's training, from the University of Arkansas Razorbacks, the Colorado Buffaloes, just trying to twist in a lot of different philosophies and bits and pieces from each that I liked. We saw some awesome success right away, like our men winning their first ever MIAA championship in cross country, but I think anybody could have coached those guys to a championship because they were on a mission and they were just that determined that they were going to get it done no matter what. Once track rolled around, we started breaking school records left and right. We saw the program's first ever sub-4 mile. We were continuing to rack up tons of team championships. It was so much fun. Since I got here in the fall of 2017, it's really amazing how fast the awards, accolades, and honors have added up over time. I like keeping track of things. I'm a stats guy, so I'll put a list here on the screen of just all the different awards we've collected as a distance squad, whether I was assisting Coach Jewett during 4 years or since then being in charge. But it really is a testament to the strong foundation that was laid before we got here, in addition to having a lot of awesome athletes here that are continuing to build upon that tradition and add to it and make it even stronger. One of our biggest accomplishments ever just from last winter was when our distance medley relay team on the men's side won a national championship, their second one in program history. And in that race, it happened to be an all-time Division II record, so the fastest anybody's ever done it. And 3 of the legs were from Kansas and 1 of them was from Texas, and they're all guys that chose Pitt State from day one. So I'm sure some of you have seen it already, but if you haven't, I made an entire documentary. It's a 5-part documentary that's like 5.5 hours of footage about just all of the build-up that went into that championship, and that was very time-consuming and exhausting to make, but very much worth it, and what I think is an incredible story. So all those accolades and awards and everything, that's all fun and awesome, but to me the most rewarding thing is the fact that we are continuing to do it the Pitt State way, and not following the trends in recruiting just to be successful at all costs compared to a lot of other top-tier programs. And for me, the Pitt State way is putting an emphasis on recruiting and developing high school athletes that choose to be here from day one rather than relying heavily on the transfer portal or international athletes. Now, I'm not saying I never get transfers or never have successful transfers or anything, but I just prefer to do it with high school athletes and see the journey from their first year of college all the way to the end of their college career. So I want to give a few examples of just some recent graduates and kind of the progress they made at Pitt State. And there are so many more examples than this, but I would go on and on and on, and the video would be way longer than it already is. But most of you, I'm sure, know Mason Strader if you watch the documentary. So he came to Pitt State as a 4:22 1600 runner, 158 or 9 in the 800, and I think 940 to 942 in the 3200. And he was actually, when I first got to Pitt State, he was like, I wouldn't call him my first recruit ever because I wasn't necessarily the one in charge of him, but I was the one that was, or I was sitting in on it, and that was the first recruit I ever interacted with at Pitt State. So kind of a cool story there, but anyways, the rest is history. Mason went on to be a sub-4 miler, and he ran sub-340 in the 1500 and racked up, I think, 11 All-American honors, anchored 2 of our DMR national championship teams, so like incredible progress there. Another recent guy graduate is Matthew Oglesby, and he grew up 30 minutes south of Pittsburgh, and he ran around 9:30 in the 3200 in high school, right around 4:30 in the 1600. He went on to be a 3-time All-American for us in cross country and became the first gorilla ever under 14 minutes in the 5K, running 13:56. 10K, we wanted to try to break 29 minutes, and we gave it our best shot and ran 29:05, came close, but the old school record was like over a minute slower than that, so he brought that down a ton. On the women's side, Kate Dawson, she came to Pitt State from Mountain City, Kansas, just a little bit north of here, and in high school she ran 2:19 in the 800 and 5:25 in the 1600. She ended up marrying Mason, and so that's why her name is Kate Strader now, but she got down to 4:19 in the 1500 and 2:07 in the 800, and was one of our top cross-country runners. And incredible story there. Finished her last outdoor national championship placing third in the 1500. So awesome runner, awesome person. And then Claire Bruning is one that also just graduated. And in high school, she ran 2:27 in the 800, trained more like a 400, 800 runner that never did cross-country, had zero experience in that. And she ultimately ended up running 2:08 in the 800 and 4:25 in the 1500 and qualified for nationals in that. And then actually in her 5th year, she was our top runner at cross-country nationals. So those stories of development are much more fun and rewarding to me than compared to bringing in an athlete that is already at a national caliber, regardless of age and whatnot, and winning team championships with a group of primarily those types of developmental athletes is even more fun. I think recruiting in the NCAA in all sports has just gotten totally out of hand. It's all about just seeing how flashy you can be and how much money you can throw at somebody, both in a scholarship offer and during the visit, with like nice meals and rolling out the red carpet and doing things like photo shoots in the uniform. And I keep things very, very basic in my recruiting. I just try to be very informational and tell them this is who we are, this is how we do things, because I don't want to be spending all this money just for a chance to get somebody, when the nature of the business and recruiting, you get told no 90% of the time anyway. So to me, that's just wasteful spending. If you want to be here, you'll find a way to be here, and if it's a great fit for you, awesome. If not, wish you the best wherever else you go. I'm sure people would be pretty shocked at how little of scholarship money is spent on distance runners at Pitt State, and that's not a complaint. That's just knowing my role in the program. The NCAA has a rule of we're only allowed to give up to the equivalent of 12.6 scholarships, so there's a lot of partials and whatnot, and we are a national championship program that spends money across all event groups and wants to be balanced. So naturally, no single event group gets a ton of money. So we got to be creative, and my goal is to show these people, even if I can't give a huge scholarship offer, that I'm going to put a lot of effort into this program and make it my life and help you be a great runner. So with all that being said, I'm extremely thankful for the kids that can see past the dollar signs and getting past that this is not a reflection of how bad I want you. And of course, I'm very thankful for their parents as well that are willing to support their kids, and if they feel like Pitt State is a great fit for them, then they will make sure they find a way to make that opportunity possible for their kid. The program's success has also been very rewarding, knowing that it's kind of built on a foundation of fundamentals of training hard, recovering hard, and competing hard. As an athlete, I wasn't into supplements or anything of that sort. It was all about how much mileage can I run? How much workout volume can I do? How fast can I run? How disciplined can I be on my sleep? How balanced can my diet be? Getting everything through natural sources. In fact, it wasn't until the tail end of my career, around the Houston Half Marathon time, where I learned about caffeine as a legal performance enhancer that was totally safe and all that. And I didn't know what a proper dosage was and everything, so I just started experimenting with it a little bit, and honestly, I just got it through black tea, and it was 50 milligrams or something, and I used it before a hard long run, I used it before a track workout, and I used it before the half marathon, and so 50 milligrams probably made some sort of physical difference, but not a ton, and it probably served more as a placebo than anything. So as a coach, I'm the same way, where I keep the emphasis on training, eating, and sleeping on how to be a better runner, and it's always going to be that way. So all of that is why recent news and speculation of performance-enhancing drugs in the NCAA has been really disheartening, because there's a lot of people out there that say it's a lot more common than you think it is, and it's easy to beat the test, and the NCAA rarely tests anyways, which I know that for a fact, just as a Division II program coach. And if all that is true, it just sucks that there's such a lack of integrity in the sport that people can't follow some simple rules and understand the reasoning behind those rules and why these drugs are banned, because they're detrimental and dangerous for long-term health and short-term health, probably for some of that too. But I just hate to see it. I was happy to find out during the D2 Indoor Championship last year that the NCAA was testing for PEDs for all event winners right after the event, as well as a random All-American in each event as well. So our guys winning the DMR championship, they were drug tested, and it's a pretty damn good feeling knowing that your guys are in there pissing in a cup 100% clean, and they're gonna pass, and there's nothing to worry about, and we did things the right way. So yeah, anyways, with the NCAA changing as fast as it has, I'm proud to say that I'm sticking to my values and what's important in coaching to me. And yes, believe me, we do like winning. We like being successful, but not at the cost of our values of work ethic and integrity and loyalty and accountability and all kinds of things like that. So even though the NCAA is changing very, very fast, we are very proud to just stay true to who we are as gorillas, which gorillas can be ruthless, we can be rowdy, we're passionate, we're competitive, we're intense, all of the above, and it can rub people the wrong way sometimes, but we like to bring a lot of energy because we put a lot into this sport and the program, and we can be genuinely happy for each other's success when somebody on the team has a great race and everybody is ecstatic to see it because they know how hard that person worked for that. So I think that pretty much does it for this video in terms of being a summary video from the past decade of my life in terms of running and YouTubing and coaching and being at Pitt State and just getting the opportunity to be a part of a very successful program and learn about the tradition that we have here. So a lot of good things going on at Pitt State, and like I said, here in a couple weeks or so, I'll have some sort of another announcement as long as things go well for what I'm planning, and don't have a set date for that video, but yeah, big things on the way soon, and kind of a different style of videos that are still very much running related, but it might surprise some of you on what it might be. So that'll be it. I will see you in a couple weeks or so.